Welcome to my perspective of the Zwift Racing League, race number 4 in round 2 of the 2022-23 season. We're out on Sprinters Playground. It's been coined Splinters. I'm getting it now too by Dave Toll and some of our commentary, as this is kind of a splinter in the leg kind of race, because there are 4 sprints per lap, 3 laps, 37K, Sprinters Playground in the Makuri Islands, Nyokio. Apologies up front on some missed audio because of DMCA over on Twitch. We'll try and start recording locally instead of the download. And then also, my feeds were a little jumpy, so just be aware that's not Zwift. That's actually just my feeds from my gaming computer over to my streaming computer weren't coming over the best at times. So enjoy the racing with Oh My God, They Killed Kenny, OMG, as well as special guest, the vegan cyclist, Tyler Pierce, jumped in with us tonight. Let's get right into it.
If he's even in here.
Yeah, he's here.
Yep. I got it.
I'm going to wait a lap for much of anything, I think.
20 seconds.
Pete, you going for the flyer off the gun? Like last time we
here.
Oh, gee, you gotta pull up the wagon for Pete. Good luck, boys.
Here we go. Have fun, guys.
As you heard me saying just a moment ago, I was going to take it easy was the plan for the first couple of laps because I was so incredibly interested trying to create a breakaway. We'll learn throughout the rest of this race, though, that because there's 4 sprints on a very short circuit, it causes a situation where the pack essentially becomes a team continually working against you. This is where the stream audio does drop out. It'll be out for a little while here. I'll be providing commentary about what I'm thinking, though, as best we can throughout. Throughout this first section here, as we come through the virtual lap banner, you won't see that lap banner actually on the third-person perspective. I'm just thinking about, okay, what's this first sprint all about, and how do I set up best for it? I'm sitting about mid-pack or so, and I'm kind of watching to get a good feel, though, for what kind of rolling sections will we have for the speed carries through on the sprint, and when is the best time to go. I could have probably followed up and just followed wheels with some good timing to try and grab a good FAL or FTS, but I assumed that the FTS was going to be set on the second lap for most of the sections, and then if I was going to go for FTS on the first lap, it would only be once I did have a power-up. So I was assuming the FTS not going to be set here. Nobody has a power-up because of that. Most likely they will be superseded. They will be overtaken in fastest through segment because everyone will have power-ups later. So I go ahead and think I'm going to reserve some matches here. The FAL isn't worth that much, and I don't want to necessarily burn the match on this FAL that could give me a better FTS later. Later on in the race, I start thinking, though, and I got to really think about this for Sprinters Playground or similar courses when there's this much sprinting going on, that is it just better to have a dominating performance over and over and over again and kind of go a little bit more all in to try and make things actually split? It seems to me that the amount of momentum that's carried through and the speed differentiations for those that are sitting in, look at where I'm sitting in right now, and how far ahead the other sprinters actually get, and as well as the amount of effort I have to put in afterwards with the roll through here to just continue to find a position. I mean, I guess I could roll all the way to the back and risk maybe a split happening, but through this section right here, I'm thinking, man, this is a pretty big effort right now to get back on terms. Wouldn't it have been better for me just to really throw down a quick little 10-second effort, 15-second effort, a little bit harder, and not have to do this huge effort afterwards? And maybe I'd be up in a position that's even better at the front of this pack to roll through on someone's wheel if I do want to attack. So the Zwift dynamics with larger packs like this on flatter courses and courses that have a different kind of a roll through, you really got to start to learn them and get really used to each and every one. And tactically, it's so different with each one of the road sections and how they interact with the avatars and the groups. This course that I learned throughout this race that roll through speed with how many times we sprint, it might not do quite as much as you want to, except for in one or two very key spots and moments. And you'll see that later in the race. We do try a couple of things, and it does kind of work. If we would have had a little bit more aggression from other teams, or a little bit more aggression from some team riders, perhaps be able to make something work to stay away. But again, the main point being the sprint through and the kick up front to stay with the leaders and even go for some extra FAL points seems to actually work out better for a lot of the positioning later on. Sitting in just isn't really a thing when everyone's going so hard for the sprints, it seems. As you can see here, we're going through for the castle sprint, the second sprint after that tower sprint. Again, I'm committed at this point to not really going all in on this. I got an arrow power up, and I am completely thinking about, okay, when am I going to use this arrow power up for an FTS? And I don't think FTS is going to be set here. And so I go ahead and say, where am I really going to focus on FTS on this course? And so I reserve this, and I'm starting to decide through each one of these sections. I learn them as well, because there's twofold here. Two things I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to accomplish, one, get to know each one of the sprint sections and how this pack is interacting with them, so that later I can attack them right where I need to get the best FTS I possibly can, because that's a higher value to me. And I'm also trying to figure out, how does this roll when it comes to counterattacking these sprints if I want to, or if I do want to go off the front after everybody's been taxed from a sprint on lap 3 or even lap 2. Where do I need to be? How do I need to sprint it? So I'm kind of playing a little bit more of a watching game and reserving game, while not being out of position in a way that wastes too much energy. And as far as my talents go, I'm not sure that it was the best choice, but we did end up grabbing a pretty good amount of points. I also, at this point in the race, I'm realizing I'm tired. I didn't get a lot of sleep the last couple of days prior to this race. I lifted not real hard the day before, but good enough that I felt a little bit of something. I did the KISS 100 on Sunday, 2 days prior, and usually the DOMs from a big race like that is 2 days after. And I did the tiny races on Saturday. I think a little bit of accumulation of fatigue is starting to really kick in. And so tonight, I just didn't feel it. I definitely wasn't feeling great. Now, at the same time, though, that doesn't always mean the performance isn't there. And I think tonight, if I would have really, really committed and not let my mind get in the way, I probably could have performed better than I thought if I would have just got into the grind of it. And then all of a sudden I find myself, oh, I am performing okay. And then that kind of has an effect that couples on itself, kind of makes you more confident, the more you feel maybe better and better, at least seeing the power in the results. And as you can see here, the sound does kick back in. You'll start hearing our heavy breathing and music again. As we come through sprint number 3 again, same tactic, figuring this out. Where do I want to go and when do I want to go for some of these FTS and FALs? Now, as you can see, I was totally wrong underneath the lap there column. All ones. It was all one on lap number 1. And the real important numbers there, that 20 points, 15 points, and 10 points, is Dawes, Boniface, and Carl taking those down. For the FALs, it was Boniface, Dawes, Bill the Fourth, it's going to be Swinton, Salas, Carl, McCormick, Tudor, and Lewis, followed up by last but not least, Tyler Pierce.
7.9.
Now, at this point, we do hear them calling out how long to the next
30 seconds.
sprint. That is the railway sprint. We also, in a moment, now are hearing vegan cyclist Tyler saying, I'm off the front.
This one's quite uphill, right?
Mostly, yeah. There's like a kicker, then it flattens out, and then it goes up another riser. It's like, the kicker is like 6%, the riser is like 3%, but it tops out at 5.
Kicker starts at 7.3.
A little bit of discussion about the climb into the railway sprint. A little bit of a bump. If you've watched any of the broadcasts over on ZCL or anybody else's streams, or you experienced it, it's a nice little kick that allows people to sometimes get away because of the downhill nature of the sprint. You can carry a ton of speed through, and the pack not always able to catch up if you got a good arrow power up. A little bit of encouragement to Tyler that I didn't agree with, actually. I knew, or at least I believed, that Tyler was going to get caught, and that if we wanted to tell him a hard truth, which might not have felt good at the time, but the hard truth was, Tyler, you're going to get caught. It was a good go off the front,
Tyler, keep it up.
and I didn't necessarily make the best choices for the team later on, as well as you'll see going into some of the final lap. At this point, I'm just thinking about whether or not I'm going to go after this railway sprint or if I'm going to take a chill again and see how it plays out this lap. Again, I am thinking about the reality of saving as much as I can for the second lap sprints. I really believe that most of these would be set FTSs, fastest through segments, on the second lap.
Here comes the kicker. Quick little climb.
Big shout out to Husky, giving us the thanks for all the commentary. Appreciate that always. And thanks for racing and watching, everybody. We appreciate all of you. Now, at this point, I do start thinking about that arrow power up a little bit. And I'm like, look, I'm probably going to get a lot more arrow power-ups. I might as well take a risk. And with there being a very high percentage, it's only 3 power-ups, so I've got a pretty good percentage of grabbing another arrow power-up later on. Might as well use this when I'm as fresh as I possibly can be. And I think I'm also thinking, look, holding on in these sprints is still burning some matches. So I really am well positioned right now, and I'm really liking the way that these downhill sprints, I'm pretty good at positioning well for them, and I'm at the back of the pack already, and it's going to be roll-through speed that's going to give me the best FTS, and I have an arrow right now. This is the best moment. And what really gives you the biggest insight to this is look at how much draft percentage goes up, how much speed I'm actually gaining for free for the wattage I'm putting out. I'm only in VO2, and I'm still almost holding on to guys who are throwing down in orange numbers. So I give full-on kick. Now look at how much it drops, though. I'm down in the 200s as I go through people, right? So the timing on free speed is so important because you can only hold over 1,000 watts for so long. The timing on the 1,000 watts, that's so key. I hit 75 kilometers per hour. Those high speeds, and for as long as you can get those high speeds through the entire segment, that's what it's all about for FTS. Fastest through segment is always going to be the best when it comes to the highest amount of speed carried all the way through, but it's all about free speed and kick managed correctly, and I did that pretty well there. I ended up with a second place. If you go back and watch the sprint over, you can see that Brett went just a tad bit earlier than me with a good kick and came from a little bit behind me, and I didn't grab onto his wheel. If I would have grabbed onto his wheel, I may have been able to gotten a little bit more free speed and not been jumping out of that 200% over and over again. I might even be able to hold on to 200% or more of a draft right on his wheel and then maybe come over the top with even higher speed. But second is good. And also big kudos to, it looks like Tyler, who held on to third even after being off the front for such a long time earlier. But that wasn't scored until lap 2. Most of those were scored on lap 2, actually. Third all the way through, it looks like 8th place actually on that FTS. Shout out to Silva for getting both, it looks like 5th, 9th, and 10th on that FTS. Big points there for Silva on that one through. He went through those a lot.
Hey, Romy? What?
We start getting some fun little comments in the background into the
have to have it on the sand.
insights there of the vegan cyclists getting content for the racing. Absolutely love it.
Cool segment.
Shout out to the vegan cyclist. I would be surprised if you don't know of his YouTube channel, but obviously if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. And you'll probably get some of his perspective of the ZRL racing, because it sounds like he's getting his awesome wife to get some content shots of what's going on there. It makes for some great Discord commentary, though, as well as some people in streaming chat were like, wait, what kind of stream are we watching right now? With some of the comments and innuendo that could be pulled from them.
All right, it's going to be a minute, babe. sorry.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit.
Oh
Lap
shit!
is at 12 points.
I fell off the back somehow, y'all. I'm sorry. When did it start? I was in the
The
group, and
Renee
now I'm
here
back.
from
What happened?
OMFG, somehow I think he had like a hiccup in his game or something where it paused on him or froze on him, and all of a sudden he found himself 20 seconds off the back.
When does the next sprint start? 13.6.
I love these
Thank
moments
you.
when someone just takes over the Discord and goes, "We need pertinent information. When is the next sprint?" Everyone shut up. You're not saying something important.
The end of the lap.
13.6 is the next sprint.
1K
12.6
after that,
is the
or-
end of the lap. We're about to head in the arcade. This is
Shit,
one
I don't-
section I thought was going to be a little more competitive, but
Get a power up
wasn't
at
that big of a
lap,
deal.
so- Yeah. No, I don't. Oh, we do. We didn't get one the first time around. We might get one this time.
Let me see. So they just called out we're
Who's off the
not
back?
getting a power up,
Jude fell off.
but I'm not sure everyone was listening, as you'll see as we go through the lap.
Sorry.
Jude, you're on. Who's Jude riding for?
OMFG. We're just gonna have back-to-back sprints, so that's what I mainly want you for.
Should
If you
I,
can just hang out for Hotel Winnie or something like?
you're gone.
It'll just be like 5 minutes. That I need
Any
you for.
long range guys want to try? Go ahead.
I just don't know. I don't know when. It's not too long. It's not like crazy. Maybe like
Back here.
4 minutes.
Oh man, Tyler, back to back sprint. That's all I really want you for. That's all I really want you for. Tyler always makes fun of me for having supposedly 17 kicks, so I got to give it back to him, right? Where I
Let's take up
can.
the road. No. I can't tell.
Bill 4.
Dirt. We got to get across then. Final make this full draft.
Koch is up here.
Now I need to
His
speak to
wheel.
this moment right here. I believe it's myself and Monks here, or Mulligan, I'm not sure which one. But we get into a little bit of a battle about who's going to hold the wheels, and a little bit of frustration
I let myself
between us at that moment, rather than just closing the gap down.
Lap.
When you're toward the back like this, you can get into that little bit of a fight of like, who's going to do it? And then you start double wheeling each other with the same efforts rather than anybody getting a draft. But since you're on opposite teams, sometimes it can kind of become a little bit of a standoff, and then you just end up working extra. It actually happens more often than not that way, because of the desire to save as much energy as you possibly can, and whoever gives in first is the one to burn energy. So
Who's up there?
it's an interesting little dynamic that can play out both in real life as well as in the virtual world, interesting enough. Now, coming into this is the lap now. We just start lap
What
2.
team is up the road?
It'll come
back on
its There is a little bit of a break up the road. I know that there is going to be, it's going to be brought back regardless because of the sprint that's coming up. We're trusting that. I believe we do have one rider up ahead. So if it does get FAL, great. But most likely will be brought back with the speeds.
I was going to. I fucked myself.
The funny thing is, he tested for us, all I said, but he used that power up there thinking he'd get the power up coming through to what I was speaking to earlier. Now here, I am thinking that I'm going to do what Vegans there talking about getting the content, as you can see. Great little commentary on some insights on that. But then this sprint, I go with my drafting power up thinking, okay, I don't have FTS here. Maybe I can use this for a counter, but that doesn't necessarily end up playing out because of the reality of how often sprints happen here. And I kind of end up getting shot in the foot about that a little bit, or shooting myself in the foot a little bit. And you'll see how my process about how this course plays out and the reality of it ends up hitting me square in the face after this sprint.
No, like when I get out of the saddle. Okay.
Here we go.
Now you can see I go into semi-sprint mode, no 1,000 watts, nothing full kick, but pretty driller. I'm up into 12, 13 watts per kilogram, but it's not the 15. And that's that extra neuromuscular. I'm not going into the extra neuromuscular. I'm just kind of holding it at like driller pace, like really high zone 7 or something like that. I don't know what you would call that. But my heart rate gets up in the 176 still though. And the reality of hanging on here, I'm like, was it even worth it to do that? Did I even save anything to be able to
15.5.
counter over the top? Is the question
15.5.
then. As you can see, the FTSs were all scored on laps 2 and 3 for that segment. And then for the FALs, it was Grenier, Dawes, Davis, McCormick, Boniface, Carl, Faulkner, Mulligan, Salas, and Nystrom coming on through. Now, it's only a very short little bit, and there are some counterattacks coming over the top here. And I did think about going, but with it only being like less than 2K to the next sprint for the Castle Sprint, this is when the reality starts kicking in that I'm thinking about, where I'm like, look, I thought that this was going to splinter, that there would be plenty of opportunities to get a breakaway, but the amount of commitment and the reality of the strength of this pack, where the sprints are going to continue to be coming at you and coming at you and coming at you over and over again, the roll through speed makes it nearly impossible unless it's at the later halves of this lap. And then if anybody wants to chase at all, those just get completely shut down. So there's only so many places where you can really roll the dice. And even then, it's only going to be for FAL points. So why not save it? And now that I have this arrow power up, my thinking really starts to change. And I'm thinking from here on out, I'm feeling like there's not that much racing left. There's a lap and a half. There's only so many sprints. And I start really changing my mind. Okay, I need to make sure I'm getting FTS where I need to. And I start really going after more of these FTS points as we make our way through. I start playing this one much more toward, well, how am I going to get the most out of this sprint right now? I've got an arrow for it. I'm right where I need to be on a fast wheel. And I think, okay, I'm rolling through with the most speed I can right here. I'm going to go all in, full on, 1,000+ watts. And I'm holding on up in the 900s. Not my best sprints today, though. I am fading. I'm not holding into some of my personal bests as much as I thought it would be. Again, I think there is some fatigue in the legs. But now I'm noticing, I'm off the front. This might be a good time to maybe give it a little bit of a go with anybody who comes on through. But then I go, I got no continuance anymore. And I end up fading backwards and backwards. My heart rate's not recovering very quickly. And I'm going, it's just not really there today. That heart rate needs to be coming down quicker than this. So I really start thinking a little bit more of a survival mode with the feelings in my body on the day. So I start going backwards and preparing for the next addition that I can make. But you can see it's still the same. From here on out, I'm thinking, how can I be an asset to this team still? Because I don't feel like I've done nearly enough compared to what I've done in the past. I want to give a big shout out here to Sabio. Whatever he did on lap 1, that is insane. A full half a second over Boniface and myself. I ended up getting a third off of that arrow power up, and my timing maybe a little bit late around the corner, maybe with the speed coming into that bump. Probably not quite enough, but that was the FTS.
0.
Not bad. Second lap, got a third place and a solid 10 points. As you can see, we're heading into the second half of this race. We've got the alley sprint coming up in just a moment. I'm in complete reset mode. And now, as I said, I am thinking about scoring points a lot more here. I'm not sure I actually involved myself in this one. I keep on going back and forth a little bit on like, what are you going to do here, Nathan? And so it looks like I think I might be thinking about a counterattack with the way I come at this. Because look at me, I'm only in 300, 376. I know I'm not fully recovered at this point. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not fully recovered. I went all in on that last one. It's not really there today. So let's go 800 watts. I do go all in though, it looks like here. Up into 1,000. But I'm thinking, all right, maybe that's enough for some FTS. I think that's really where I'm at right there. But today being one of those days where I'm not necessarily feeling maximal, I'm also thinking, well, maybe I can sneak something off the front here or there if the pack does start having some chinks in the armor. So I am starting to get into that mode where you're like, well, what's my luck today? Rather than coming at it, and you know that you're in
28.2.
a mode that's not necessarily in control of a race, right? Like when you feel like you are in control of a race and you feel like you can make moves when you need to, that you're not in over your head, that's the good sensations that you need that make it for winning races. And if you can't put yourself in that position often in a race, that usually is when you start thinking like, well, what's my luck? Rather than making luck, you start thinking, well, where can I find luck? And so It's the winning attitude that's going to make the most out of luck. That's going to create the most luck for you. That's going to create the most opportunities for you. And I definitely am not necessarily in that mindset today. And a lot of times when you hear people say that my mindset is one that it's about being aggressive or taking chances, well, it's because I find that it's the person who's looking for the chances and looking for the opportunities, the person who's actually able then to make those opportunities more available to themselves. So, and it may be that if you've put the right preparation into and you've got the right kind of fitness that you've showed up to, that's why training for those situations, not just physically, but also with your mentality in a race, that how you approach is going to also help create more opportunities. Yeah, you don't want to be stupid with the amount of risks you take and how you take those risks. But if you can learn how to set yourself best up to find those opportunities and then actually practice taking them, it's the leading into those that's going to find them the best without risking too much. That's always that tempered. Not too much chaos, but just enough to find the right opportunities is what you want to create. Now, today, the chaos was in me a little bit more. I put myself in a fitness situation after so much fatigue in the body where, there's a little bit too much disorder in the body to be able to find the right amount of chaos in the pack out there. I'm not able to create enough chaos in others today. There's too much in my fatigue today. We are heading toward the Railway Sprint for the second time out there. My mentality, though, does change a little bit more at this point. I am going to be starting to look for a lot more opportunities in the second half. My plan today was to see how fatigued the pack gets, and if I had anything to really start throwing things off the front over and over again. That obviously got a little bit of a wrench thrown in that with the reality of how fast this pack can pick on them, and just a lot of respect for this group too. I start today, the realization of how strong this group is and how strong this group has gotten in America's West really started to become a reality to me, because there wasn't just breaking away however the heck you want. You've got to be on point, and I really feel like the rest of the teams have come up to a whole nother level actually in their ability to respond and make moves and put every other team on the back foot as much as they possibly can. I really love the aggression from this group. Early on attacks, as you can see there, fire socks off the front. We'll see what Nathan does here. I don't remember exactly, so maybe we'll just call it as we see it. Looks like I'm reaching for that drafting boost. I think I'm using that drafting boost because I know for sure that I want something else than that for the next couple of sprints with a lap and a half to go. I'm looking for arrows pretty much anytime I can get them. Looks like at about 419, 420. It's pretty far into this. I'd be really surprised if I sprint too much. Look at that, 310%. Yeah, I go ahead and sit down. I'd be full on sprint if I was challenging this, so I have a feeling I'm going for more of an over-the-top counter. Look at the way, though, that I'm toward the back of this pack. The roll-through speed is not really that significant. Splits are up ahead, and unless the whole pack stays together, it doesn't really roll that well. I do get invisibility power up. I kind of roll my eyes at that a little bit, I think, because it doesn't really interest me too much. Let's take a look at the FALs, though, for that. FAL for lap number 2, Railway Sprint, Boniface, Dawes, Tudor, McCormick, Quigley, Silva, Faulkner, Tyler Pierce, Vanderveen, and Hemi. Across the line for each of their points, respectively, for 10 all the way down through 1. Not going to be showing the FTS more than once on this video, so if you're looking for the FTS fast through segments, wherever I either went for them or it seemed like the most were scored, I will be showing them, as they are only scored once throughout the entirety of the race. The fastest for the entirety of the race is scored one time just on a certain lap, and so whatever lap that I show those is the lap where you'll see they won't change, so no reason to show them again.
Starts at 26.0.
Now I am really calming down, as you can see, getting down into that 95 watts, 110 watts. I'm really starting to think about, okay, it's time to start throwing attacks off the front. It's the latter half of the race. people start getting fatigued and maybe not wanting to chase, really thinking about the final sprint, thinking about the final couple of sprint points and what they can get out of it, and they don't want to waste a whole lot of effort.
I'm sitting a couple sprints here.
I think we should start sending people off the front. You see what I'm saying? Sending people off the front. The FAL points are going to be worth so much now.
I'm going to go after. I'm going to go off of every opportunity I get now.
Because lap 1 and 2 is most likely where the most FTS were scored, and it's harder to get them later because of fatigue.
So the next downhill I roll off of because we're still up high, so there's going to be speed. See what I'm saying?
I didn't want to attack here because you attack up on this railway.
We'll probably go through the arcade or a little after.
And the downhill there,
So let's say names.
they
Everyone knows
catch you.
Nathan's voice, but I don't know
That was
everyone else's
Vegan.
voice.
That
So
was
who's
Vegan.
after Nathan?
So me and Vegan are talking about when to go.
Thank you.
And Vegan wants to start attacking. I want to start attacking. I know that the pack is going to roll with a lot of speed on the downhill off of this upper bridge. So you don't want to attack before coming off of this because they're just going to watch the speeds we get to. We start ramping up here in a second. So then the smartest thing is to take free speed to the front and then attack off the front.
Real soon here, real soon.
And then I'll go after.
And that whole idea of the FAL
Next sprint
points
is 26.0.
being... No, look at the super tuck actually here coming on through from Mulligan. That's how fast we're
We
going.
got a score.
I go ahead and roll
So
through.
far?
But the reality is I use an invisibility power up here. Hopefully they don't see me. I don't think anybody does. So the other thing with this is I say FAL are worth more later is because FTS may have all been stolen and you're not going to get as much out of those FTS efforts. But you can get the most out of the FAL efforts, right? So that's essentially where I'm thinking, okay, now is when you want to start getting breakaways to try and grab FAL points and make other teams chase and allow your sprinters to sit.
Billy, can you jump with them?
Now, I'm necessarily in agreement with this, and I just let it go. I wasn't going to say don't do anything, whatever. But a second attack from OMG to try and go across is going to get response from the rest of the group. So if Fogger comes across to me that's 2 off the front, they might not do as much with it. But if it's covered here by Nystrom, then bam, 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 roll through speed starts coming from the rest of the pack. It kind of snowballs, and it kind of shuts down, actually, someone who's on your team who might be off the front. Allowing 2 or 3 different teams to go off the front and get single riders up there, especially with a strong sprinter like myself, it actually sets me up really well if I'm working with 4 riders and then can out sprint each and every one of them. At this point, I do think it's over. 3 seconds coming into this section, it's just not going to work. I needed more like 10 seconds. I needed to get away a little bit more and maybe have a rider or 2 with me. So I throw it down.
Someone go with them.
I just say, well, throw it down. It's like I shut it down. To say enough is enough. This probably isn't going to work.
Nathan coming back. Guys, you're launching in 3, 2, 1.
Now, if we watch how this counter actually plays out, it could have been done a little bit better, as the riders could have anticipated my catch and then gone through with roll through speed from the back all the way to the front. So it's just an awareness issue where if you wanted to attack off of my catch with the most amount of speed and free speed and really catch people off guard, the moment that you hear someone getting caught, hopefully there's somebody who can say, hey, I'm coming back. And I probably should have communicated this, and I didn't. It's my fault. But it would have been better if I would have communicated, said I'm being caught, and there was a 3-2-1 for the moment I was caught, and then bam, the roll through speed comes right on through from back to front of the pack for a rider, rather than trying to attack from the front of the group, which usually almost never gets as much distance. So they don't get a ton of distance here because of it. Seeing as that I don't have a power-up because I had used an invisibility power-up, and I figured the invisibility power-up wasn't going to be very useful for the section that's coming up here for a good sprint, I go ahead and use this more as a launching pad, perhaps for being amongst the front split, rolling the dice a little bit amongst that, and hoping for a better power-up in a few moments here. I kind of chalk this one up to luck, saying, well, I don't have the power-up for getting FTS. I probably don't have that great of a sprint for a really high FAL at this point up against no power-up. I hope that perhaps because there's riders off the front that there's going to be a pretty good roll speed ramping up into this, and that perhaps there's going to be some tired legs for maybe a counter to go into the castle sprint. But it's mainly like looking to not waste too much energy with a full gas sprint and just be really up toward the front as much as I possibly can to reserve energy by being with the front pack once I do stop sprinting to hang on here. Now notice off the front here, still some riders. The breakaway stayed away that countered off of my attack. And there's Tyler saying he got it. Super awesome. So some FAL points being scored off of. Now think about how that worked.
Hey, Pete.
The rolling slingshot coming from downhill, then a chase that had to come up to me. I was brought back. And then from there, Tyler came over the top. A group went off the front, and bam, Tyler able to take that down. And as you can hear, Pete had some sort of issue with his power or something, so he had to leave the race, but he just came back to let us know that we're doing really well. We're being told the distances to come up here, but so awesome that Tyler was able to grab that breakaway FAL points. Major win from him. You can hear how excited he was with getting those points as well. It's a big moment, those kind of successes within the virtual world of racing. Really great to hear. And it's a super accomplishment and in our own like team ethos, because we set something up, we communicated it, and it ended up paying off big for one of our riders and for the whole team. Now I have this invisibility power up, which again, I'm probably like, ugh, what good is this going to be? And with the way that this next sprint works, I want an arrow or a draft. I don't want a ghost. And then there's the reality that we're coming into a sprint that it's not really going to do anything for me because if I try and break away with the ghost right now, I probably am not staying away. And so I give a little kick here to see if I can get riders to kind of respond to me and waste a little bit of energy, ramp things up so then I can take the roll through speed from them ramping up. So I am purposely causing them to speed up so that I can go to the back and then slingshot off of that speed, because I'm trying to fight for things no matter what kind of at this point, because all the opportunities are almost gone. I've got enough in the legs that I think I can make some moves, and I want to get what I can out of this race. Now you can see that there was an invisibility that went early here. That's Caleb. He heard or saw that there was an invisibility going somewhere and it disappeared, so he wants the chase to happen. I throw my invisibility so I can get a different power up. I don't really care about its ability in this. I just want to be able to stay involved here. Give a little bit of a kick. I'm really just trying to hang out, it looks like here. I thought maybe I was sprinting for this one, but no, it looks like I'm mainly trying to waste as little energy as possible. I'm trusting that that's going to come back. I remember that being said, and he did. He did this sprint perfectly every single lap. Great job to him. And here's confirmation. Sabille absolutely dominating with 10 points there. Boniface, Flanagan, Faulkner, Grenier, Ulrich, Nystrom, Vanderveen, Salas, and Pedrosa for your timer for the fastest across the line for the Castle Sprint on lap number 3. Right down into the last few kilometers here now. We have a little fun chatter in Discord here in just a moment, because he said that there's 5.5 left. No, it's 8.6 in kilometers. To make sure that there's any confusion, the correction in kilometers comes out.
I'm the only American here.
Supposedly only American because he uses miles and we're all traders. Oh, man. I don't know. In distance...
He just doesn't know it yet.
In distance, you know, vegan, it just makes more sense. Those metrics.
100 meters.
I really want to get the whole finish, okay?
Felipe is from Winnipeg here. Felipe is from Winnipeg, murder capital of Canada, because he's going to slay this finish. Go. Don't fall off.
Final alley sprint coming up here. And all I am thinking about here from on is a breakaway and not wasting too much energy. I just want to hang on to the front pack and try and waste as little energy as I can. As they start to get little gaps on me and I see my draft percentages changing, I'm really like, oh, just make sure you're staying as much in that draft and as much toward the front as you possibly can. I'm staying under 600 watts, so I'm pretty happy. My speed is still pretty high. There aren't really any gaps for me, and I'm not too far toward the back. My heart rate's only hit 170. I'm not up in the 180s. I've reserved enough.
Pass on, guys. Good one to pass on.
As you can hear that, it's really about a lot of finish side points at this point. Even Pete could see the in our Discord that, look, nobody really went for that, and everybody allowed other riders to take some points there. And here's the confirmation of that. It's going to be Swinton, Schoenwolf, Bill the Fort, Vanderveen, Marshall, Plant, Tudor, Quigley, Salas, and Mulligan. No one from OMG going for any points on that one. Obviously, we're all starting to think about finish line and that we have enough points at this juncture in the race that we're confident that we have most likely won the race. See, and do we have enough to sit off? It's even being said. Railway sprints coming up
Honestly,
here.
Guys, you guys are more than double ahead of your closest guys, which is Riot right now.
So we're thinking, look, what kind of race do we want to race from here on out for the most points that we get, as well as, you know, there's something special about first across the line in the finish.
OTR Hayes is currently in 4th. OMFG needs to score a lot of finishing points to overcome Hayes and knock them down to 5th.
Okay, so my thought is OMG. We send a couple for this final sprint, and then we just sit in for the finishing points.
And you kind of get way out. You know what I mean? Like out by the canyon box.
Tyler's still giving directions about how to get the best shots. Everything is content. Everything is content. Everything is content. Okay, so the conversation there is about we had a DQ in the first TTT of this season. And because of that, we are 20 points behind. We won on the day, but then got DQ'd. Well, you can go back and watch our race from race number 2. I'll be uploading that soon, and we'll be showing you what exactly happened there. But that DQ then has put us so far behind that, you know, Brett's kind of talking. I think that's Brett is talking a little bit about how can we maybe
I just want to attack a lot.
get into a situation where we get the right teams in the right situation to overtake second, third, or fourth place, perhaps, and get them down far enough that hopefully every win for the rest of the season might get us in a place to win still. So we see an early attack here going for Tyler. I would not have suggested this necessarily, but he is going full on solo, and good for him. I mean, it could work going in the railway, but usually that railway bump really encourages a big kick. And if you're going to go, it usually gets caught, and you got to have something left when you get caught. Now we go ahead and have another kick right here up this railway sprint. And I think somebody goes across him. I'm not sure Vegan has anything left here. If they come over the top of him or not. And there is a pretty big kick here. Now, he didn't go early enough, though, actually, that it probably drained him too much. So he's probably able to jump onto the wheels here. There it is. But we all make the catch here on this last final bump up here. A lot of riders actually go. It's a tough one, obviously, later in the race to stay away from it. With such a whittled down pack, I think riders start getting nervous that this is maybe not going to stay together after this even. Now, what we've seen a lot of times is people going on the bump and then holding away. A lot of times, though, somebody who goes way earlier before that bump, they end up getting caught by those who go on the bump. We saw that in some of the ZCL broadcasts. And then they end up going over the top of them, and they're just a launch pad, the ones who went prior to that little bit of a bump. Or as we heard over on the Zwift Insider article that was recently written, the climb. That is not just a little kicker.
Don't record till I tell you.
So at this point, all I'm thinking about is attacks. I'm not thinking about being a part of any kind of sprint for FTS or FAL. You can see I'm completely sitting in. I'm actually way in the back, though. I probably could have given a little bit more here, but I'm just trusting to come back together. Look at how far that train is out up in the upper left. This is actually, I'm thinking in the back of my head, this is a dangerous position. Are the guys next to me suffering a lot? You can see Vegan did end up pretty far back behind me there. It's a tough spot to get away at this point. Now, what happens here is really interesting. I make a call, and I thought, well, let's roll the dice and see if this can work. I probably should have been a little bit more aggressive about the way I was making the calls and giving a lot more
All the way through the finish.
information about what I was thinking after we made certain moves here. But we rolled the dice, and it was mainly for fun. The final FALs, it's going to be Boniface, Faulkner, Silva, Tudor, Tawes, Knight, Quigley, Sweet, Stonewolf, and Heck for the final Railway Spit FAL before the finish. Now, I do have an arrow power up here. I got lucky enough that I was able to grab one of those, so pretty good for the finish. Really, finish line points are, oh man, more of the, I absolutely love it, the content.
They're so hairy right now.
If you find mine over there, will you return them, please?
So this section here, though, with the finish line, you always want to be saving as much as you possibly can. I have no idea what's happening there about the whining. Something about whining. Maybe Caleb was whining about his legs being at Vegan's house or something. And then there's my 17 kids joke that I hear about nonstop.
Call
So
Nathan Dad on the weekends.
yeah, sounds like a good idea. Hashtag dad. So anyways, the arrow power up later in the race with the amount of value, just as like a tactical suggestion out there that I tend to apply to myself,
To do if we all just launched right now, 8 watts per
is
kilo
that
to finish.
if you get an arrow power up toward the end,
We should do that at the bottom of
roll the dice on that. You want to keep that for the finish. You want to keep it for the finish because it's worth so much. If you think if you can win the finish sprint,
Full lead out train.
then you should
Not
do that.
kidding,
Now,
it'll work.
I do make a call here, though, that I think it's going to work, that we're all going to launch. Now, what I should have done
Go to
here
the back. Go to the back right now.
is
Go to the
that
back
like
right
4 of
now.
us launch, not all of us. We should have said like 3 of us launch,
should
and then the
roll right
other
through.
3 launch off the
Very
top
speed,
of it.
Just kick like crazy.
It's true, but like 3 of us should have done it, not the entire team, because we could have had another part of the team counter and then jump on the wheels of those who tried to follow us and get a full-on lead-out train, right? With 2K or so,
Gain speed.
it was enough time for us to attack for a kilometer
Let's go.
and then let another attack go with some of our other riders who are then our lead-out train. And then on top of that, what we could have seen was us sit on that lead-out train after we did this attack, force other riders to chase, and then bam, come over the top again. So it could have been a triple slingshot, essentially. But instead, we all went, which then burned all of our matches, which wasn't the smartest idea, actually. We probably had a couple of stream snipers, which is fine. That's on me for not setting a delay. I'm streaming. It's free to watch, guys. Nobody's doing anything wrong by watching. But I should set a 30-second to 1-minute delay so that we don't give away our tactics. So I'm probably going to start doing that. Because, I mean, people are watching and go, Nathan's going to attack, and then they can just set up, and as you can see, it didn't split too much. But if somebody would have been sitting in, you know, something could have happened here. Now, Vegan does fully commit. We all go, this isn't happening. And Vegan's like, oh, I'm going to keep committing here. And he almost had something moving there, but really the speed was just too high with that downhill. And then we're all back together. So we all sit back in, and we get set up for the sprint that's going to happen in about a kilometer.
ready to go
Also,
again.
we left a huge tail of riders with so many of us going for everybody just to latch on to. The counterattack goes over the top. I'm trusting that it's not going to stick and that our speed's going to be high enough. We did put everybody on the back foot, though.
Nicely done, Sean.
We are hearing that Brett thinks that the rider that went got it. I'm not sure. No, I don't think he actually did, though. But I thought maybe it was going to stick as well. But I think if we would have played that tactic where we countered over the top, we would have had the perfect lead out because the speeds would have been so incredibly high. And we would have known that we could have been set up at the front. Because sometimes if you don't think the speeds are going to be too high, you're set back here waiting for a kick rather than just being at the front where somebody's full on lead out train. Then you can just come over the top of it. But instead, you got to kind of do this timed kick as you see here for whoever's going to roll through you and then jump on that train, which is a very different way of sprinting. It's a good go here. Philippe and Bill get a good jump on me a little earlier. And because of that, I just don't have the distance to close it down. And they've got a really good kick, too. As you can see across the line, we go not 1, 2, 3.
Fourth. Nice work, guys.
Second, third, and fourth across the line.
Good job, guys.
Beautiful work. Wow.
Nathan said to go long. I burned all my matches. And I lasted
Vegan's 100% right there.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I did tell him to go long. Well, all of us to go long, but he fully committed.
I can't think. Just call us Legion of Zwift. Zwift Legion. 1, 2, 3, 4.
He called us. He's saying he can't think. He called us like Legion or something. Goes to show how freaking hard this is.
Killer work, guys.
I went deep on that, going.
Yeah, you did. I was gonna say, hey, hold up, and reset. Sorry. Once they caught.
It's all right. It was kind of like at that point where it might have snapped.
Yeah.
It wasn't like for sure. So I kind of kept in it, but whatever.
And that's the racing from my perspective for the Zwift Racing League, America's West race number 4 in Division 1A's. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure to do those cool things that everybody tells you to do on their YouTube channel. That is follow, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. If you want more information or have questions or want to talk about the content here at all, I am happy to respond in the comments below, and we'll see you for the next race. We'll be trying to upload every single day, hopefully by 2 p.m. Central Time, for all of the edits to come. And we'll see you guys out on Zwift. Right on.